So hello everyone from Estonia. I'm Kota. I'm the facilitator of this stage. And today at this stage, we would like to talk about Estonia. And what is Estonia, where it is Estonia, and how Estonia work together under the Corona situation, and how I'm Japanese, so how Japanese can learn from Estonia to digitalize our services and our society. So we have only 15 minutes, so I would like to move to the self-introduction section. Yeah. Can you see the presentation, self-introduction presentation? Yes. So we can start from Hikaru, is it? Could you move to the next slide? Yeah, so Hikaru, please introduce yourself at the beginning.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Hikaru, co-founder and CEO of KUSAKA Inc. As you can see, I'm deepfake. Unfortunately, the real Hikaru is not attending today, so that I'm presenting as Hikaru using deepfake. That's not true. But what we are actually doing is in order to prevent a deepfake try to pretend real me, we are providing a digital ID solution. And since 2017, I relocate also myself in Estonia together with my family. So it's been almost 3 years since I relocated myself in Estonia. But actually this year I came back to Tokyo. So I kind of go back and forth Japan and Estonia. And we are now providing a digital ID solutions in Japan. And back in 2017, we started to kind of provide the blockchain technologies and the digital ID solutions in Estonia, working together with also Estonian startups, which also today's moderator Alex used to work. And yeah, that's what I am doing. And currently, I am also a digital transformation advisor of Kaga City, which is in Ishikawa Prefecture. So my role in this digital area is bridging the gap between a private sector and the public sector by using not only technology but also bridging gap of manner of how they kind of utilize technologies. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Hikaru. Yeah, so yeah, let's move to the next. Yeah, and this is already me. Again, I'm Kota SAITO. As Hikaru said, I'm actually working together with Hikaru at the KUSAKA. But at the same time, I'm a co-founder of the SetGo, which is an e-residency business company. We help the Estonian e-resident, to set up the company in Estonia in 3 minutes, actually, if you have the e-residency card. Yeah, and our service is connected to the Estonian government via X-Road. So we developed the X-Road based on the services. And yeah, I myself relocated to Estonia 2018, so it's already 2.5 years ago. And I used to work at the is a eKYC company, online AI-based online identity company as a visitor. And before that, I used to work for the EY as a digital-related consultant. So yeah, I worked for the digital industry for already more than 5 years. Yeah, and today I'm talking from Estonia. So I'm Estonian basis. So I'm really happy to be here today and looking forward to talk to you all. Yeah, that's me. And next one, please, is Oliver. Yeah, yes. Only Estonian today. So yes, Oliver, please introduce yourself.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And it's a pleasure to be here. Good evening or good morning or wherever you are your day. My name is Oliver and I work for Estonian Embassy in Japan, and my mission here is to support Estonian companies in their export endeavors, but also I am supporting investments from Japan to Estonia, and therefore I'm quite actively working with Estonian government and Japanese government, but also government besides government agencies with companies, but of course, startup ecosystems. So kind of creating networks between the both countries, which I consider the most useful way to build up long-lasting relationships. And I'm trying to currently use my background from private sector, from government sector, and also startup sector in order to make my job successful. So, and if you have any ideas how to make Japan-Estonia relations more stable, more successful, please, I am here.
Cool.
Thank you very much.
All right. Yeah, interesting career. Okay, so at the end, Tomosaku, go ahead.
All right. Good morning for Estonia and good afternoon for Japan. My name is Tomosaku SOHARA. I'm a founding member and managing partner at the Nordic Ninjas. As you can see, my background, I live in Helsinki. I live in Finland physically, but I live in Estonia mentally.
Ah, cool.
Yeah. Well, so Nordic Ninja is kind of $100 million venture capital fund. And we are backed by 4 Japanese corporates, or 3 Japanese big corporates and the Japanese government. We are focusing for the investment for the early stage companies in the Nordic region and the Baltic region. And I'm based in Helsinki, but we have an office in Stockholm in Sweden and Tallinn in Estonia. I usually commute to the Estonia on a weekly basis before the pandemic was happened, but nowadays I just commute to the Estonia monthly basis. And we have the 12 portfolio companies across the regions, but we made already 3 investments in Estonia. One company is the Belief, which the company which the Kota had worked before. Yeah. And the Bolt, one of the unicorns from the Estonia, is ride-hailing big platform in Estonia. And another third company is Realize. This is kind of emotional AI platform to measure human response and attention through the webcam. So, I mean, we love them, the Estonian technology, Estonian startup ecosystem. So it's really looking forward to discussing today. My personal background, 10 years experience for the M&A and the clean tech financing globally, and several years experience for the running growth fund and the venture capitals. And I personally have a passion for drinking beer and Japanese sake, playing in baseball, and also the talking with great entrepreneurs about the future of the world and society. So first of all, thank you for having me today. Great.
All right, awesome. Yeah, so overall, there are 3. Hikaru is from startup field, startup entrepreneur, and Tomosaku is from the VC. And Oliver is from government sector. I myself was so excited to be here, and it's really unique that we can meet the people from government side really easily in Estonia. Yeah, so that is the kind of flexibility of Estonia. So we have less minutes now. So yeah, let's move to the first question. So maybe so many of the participants today doesn't know really well about Estonia. So my first question is, what is Estonia? What is Estonia's startup ecosystem? And how do you express in just one word? So Hikaru, you can take the first one.
In one word? Okay, it's hard to describe in one word, of course, but like my first feeling when I entered into the Estonian ecosystem is like small, definitely. But if I may say a few more words, well connected and open is like my first impression of like Estonian startup ecosystem. And if I may say why, I think that the most reason why I felt that is like since Estonia in the domestic market, they don't have market at all. I would say they don't have market. So if you have if you set up your IT company in Estonia, you're actually not going to provide the services in Estonia. You try to provide the services abroad. Maybe you target US, you target Singapore, Finland, or anywhere outside of Estonia. That's why like all Estonian startups are helping each other to share the information of other like markets. Like if you try to enter US market, maybe you can share the information to the Estonian startup. But if you consider to Japan, because we have market domestically in Japan, so that's like anyway you are laughing each other as startup like team or like the friends, but actually you are competitor in somehow. So I think that's why Estonia ecosystem is somehow, I feel, comparing to Japan, well connected and like really open to share the information of how you fail, how you become successful.
Interesting. Well connected. As I said, like people from government and the startup is well connected, and even inside of the startup ecosystem, I feel that it's really connected. Yeah, thank you so much. Small, well connected, and open. So Oliver, please describe as Estonian point of view.
Well, yeah, thank you. Since you actually stole one of my key words, which is accessibility, I take a liberty to use actually two. I completely agree that the Estonian startup ecosystem, and not only Estonian startup ecosystem, but also government and sub-government agencies, they are extremely accessible, I think. In Japan, you have silos, you have like Tatevari, Jyoge Ganke. In Estonia, these things, I think, don't matter so much. And therefore, for startups, it's easy to approach the right people. You can even go up to the basically Prime Minister's office if there are real need for that. And I think ideas are quite well accepted by the government also. And I would also describe Estonian startup ecosystem with another word. It's kind of holistic from my point of view, in a sense that if we divide it into 4 sections, like startup mindset, this kind of activities from government side already start from the education. So you kind of have schooling, you all probably know Estonian relatively good PISA results. Then we have pre-startup phase where you have all sorts of activities, hackathons, robotics events, universities are involved. Then you have kind of the startup phase where more focus is put on funding, networking, mentorship. And then you have scale-up phase where funding again is more and more important and good events are important. So from my perspective, I think Estonia, while being small in terms of ecosystem, it's also very holistic. It's the kind of breeding of entrepreneurial people starts already from very early age, and we have services up until a very like mature level for a startup. So these are the kind of 2 words that I would use.
Thank you so much. Yeah, actually, I'm now working at the startup hub called Lift 99, and I can easily meet like the legendary investor or founder of the unicorn company, and teenager who are trying to be the entrepreneur. So yeah, I really agree with that. So at the end, Tomosaku, please describe Estonia in 1 word.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to try to make a comment from the different angle, but I think that honestly speaking, it's quite difficult because I fully agree with what Hikaru mentioned that Oliver mentioned. So yeah, I mean, maybe I don't want to repeat it again, but I must say like Estonian startup community, I mean, from my perspective, is like a comfortable and also the respectable, I mean, community led by younger empowerment and the governmental, I mean, big support. So, I mean, as everybody knows, that I think the number of the startup and the number of the unicorn per capita in Estonia is, I think, one of the highest country in the world. But although, I mean, Estonia is quite a small country, so but that's why everybody know each other, right? Under the communities. Well, for example, I just lived in this region just for 2 years, but I know almost all the venture capitalists working for the Estonian companies. So that's why it's really comfortable. I mean, compared to the like Israeli market or Silicon Valley market. Although, I mean, we sometimes compete with each other, but we are cooperating with each other, most likely cases. And I also, I mean, Estonian people, also the foreign people working in Estonia, we are we are proud of have a Estonian startup scene, startup communities. So, I mean, entire the nation, I got a feeling that the enthusiasm about the entire nation, that's to support and to build the best startup scene, the best startup ecosystem, at least in #1 in Europe. And I also that I agree with, and Oliver mentioned that the Estonia startup scene has a good access for the several vertical, like early stage capital, because there's a lot of angel investors coming from the Skype Mafia or TransferWise Mafia, right? I mean, Unicorn Mafia. So that's why it's easy to find a good mentor. I mean, from the investors' perspective, also from startup perspective, and good engineers, not only for the Estonian, but also the foreign engineers. And also it's easy to get the government support. So it's a really good combination, although that we don't have a big market, we don't have a big communities.
Interesting. Thank you so much. Oliver, maybe you can mention some comment.
Yeah, I'm just happy to hear such positive comments on Estonian ecosystem, but it's also very interesting that we pretty much agree what are the strong points of Estonian startup ecosystem, but also maybe some weaker points, like we don't have market, or we don't have actually, well, the market is developing, and although we didn't have funding so well covered like 5 or 10 years ago, it has come along. But on the other hand, we are still very dependent on foreign funding. But it's very interesting to hear that we pretty much are on the same page on how the Estonian startup ecosystem looks from the outside side.
Cool. Yeah, comfortable is what I felt at the first day of Estonia already. Yeah, and that's why I'm keep living here. Okay, yeah, we are pretty much on the same page. So next question. So this small country is still like affected by the COVID and the pandemic. So I would like to ask, like, this is not the kind of the, maybe to Oliver for the governmental level, but the SOHARA-san, Tomosaku and Hikaru, in a kind of the, company basis or personal basis, but how does COVID affect to your business? So Oliver, could you describe what is happening in Estonia and how Estonian government works?
So I will again try and answer in 2 parts. First, like maybe the government side, but also from startup ecosystem side a little bit. Lately, when I'm giving presentations in Japan, as I'm based in Japan and quite often try and explain what is happening in Estonia, I use a word that Estonia has been preparing for Corona actually from 2001. Because when Corona hit Estonia, we were actually quite ready to quickly adopt distance learning, telework, even distance medicine, these kind of things. And when Japan was struggling with Hanko system, we had a just digital signing system. So at the very instant when people went to a telework regime, they could still sign legally binding contracts from their home. And we could see, like, during the first months of the emergency situation, actually the digital signing went up 50% because people were at home. So this kind of, we had digitalization, real life plus alpha. But when we entered Corona period, this alpha became the main life, kind of. So we were relatively prepared, but of course, as we are open economy, some of sectors like tourism, hotels, etc., got hit. And I think it's very interesting to see that people quite often ask what happens if digitalization fails, or if you have risks in systems and they actually materialize. But now we can ask a question: what happens if what happens if actually real life fails? So in Estonia, I think more people started appreciating digitalization, and also people from outside digitalization.
Okay, some noises are happening. Yeah, maybe we can a little bit wait.
So I think we are hearing voices from
anonymous, maybe from Estonia or Finland. But yeah, we can wait a little bit. Yeah, I'm not sure where does it coming from. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we need to fix that, and then we can proceed.
Yeah, I think so. So, okay, noise が入っちゃってますね。So we can wait a bit, maybe, yeah.
Just one second. Yeah,
just 1 second, okay. No worries.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Yes. So Estonia was prepared. That was my main point. And the second point that I was trying to make was that actually during the Corona, Estonian startups got more and more funding, because quite many Estonian startups, they are actually dealing with technology, cybersecurity, or IT systems, etc. Something that actually matters for people. And therefore, actually, funding went up, turnover went up, and startups that survived were these kind of strong IT and cybersecurity related startups. So I would say that Estonia was quite well prepared, also not only from government and from our e-services perspective, but on the other hand, the startup ecosystem was kind of correctly orientated. Like I think Nordic countries in general, we don't like to do useless things. We actually try and provide services that are really useful for user. Therefore, I think Estonian startup ecosystem in general performed quite well.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I was so impressed. Like just after the pandemic situation and the emergency situation, yeah, all of my friends moved to the kind of the stay at home and the work from home. What they did was just bring their like a monitor from the office to their home, and that's it. So they are prepared. Yeah, from 2001 was really interesting, that phase. So Tomosaku, so you are the investor. So from the point of the investor, maybe you should know some of the interesting startups. So you can take that example and please describe as well.
Yeah, of course. I mean, in general, I mean, the many startups, including several portfolio companies of ourselves, have been heavily impacted, I mean, negatively, I mean, due to the COVID situation. Especially, it is quite difficult to having the difficulty to get new customers. So that's why we always say to the startup, I mean, to focus for the current customers engagement, because it's quite tough to get a new customer on board during the pandemic. But I think that's let me give you some example of our portfolio companies which has been performing really good during the pandemic. So first of all, again, I mean, the belief. So I think that maybe Kota, you can explain, I mean, better than me, because I have never worked in insider. I have never worked internally as a belief, but yeah, belief is, as I said earlier, the AI-driven online identification verification system. So in response to increasing demand for the remote work, online transaction, and the digital services across the world, so I mean, Belief Solutions has a lot of attention, not only for the fintech sectors, but also the marketplace and the e-commerce sectors. And after pandemic happens, Belief has successfully to enter the new segment, like online test market or I mean, big or large companies, I mean, internal use cases. So that's I mean, the good cases. And another one is the Bolt, another company in Estonia. The Bolt is a ride-hailing company. So before COVID happened, the Bolt was focusing for the ride-hailing. They are dominating the market in the Europe, especially kind of Central and Eastern European countries, and also the Africa. But after that, people change their behavior. I mean, for the commute, right? So some people are quite hesitate to take a taxi or ride hailing, also the public transportation. But both could be adjusted for the new market. So the boat has launched the micromobility as well as the ride hailing. So micromobility means like a e-scooter or e-bicycle. It is quite easy for the people to get the e-scooter or e-bicycle because it's like a contactless. They don't need to communicate with the people to take that kind of that. So also that the many municipality in the Europe is finding for the another alternative instead of public transportation. So, and the boat is tremendously successful to launch the micromobility operation. So now they have a ride hailing and an e-scooter and e-bicycle, and they can provide they can offer any type of the mobility solution for the end users. That's a success story for another success story in Estonia. And one more example that's about food delivery or on-demand delivery services from the e-commerce. We have one company from Lithuania, unfortunately not Estonia, but Lithuania, the ZT City. They are offering the B2B on-demand delivery services. So as you can imagine, that's during the lockdown or semi-lockdown situation, people is willing to order, something to be delivered, like a food or like some goods from the e-commerce, and also that they want it to be delivered on demand. So the DTC attraction supported by increased demand in delivery for the food and also the e-commerce. So those three companies, they have been growing exponentially during the COVID situation because they can be agile, they can adjust, they can fit to the new market after the COVID situation happens. So one tip for every startup, well, they need to think about how we can adjust, how we can be agile for the new market or for the new era or new human being behaviors. That's a good case from Estonia.
Oh yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, agile and flexible. Yes, we will describe it, I think so. And even Corona and the pandemic was not expected, of course, even from Estonian, even it is well prepared. But they are so flexible. And I'm a heavy user of the e-scooters because I didn't have to contact the people, and it's really comfortable to move around. Estonia is already small, so I can move in 10 minutes to everywhere already, though. Yeah. So thank you so much. Yeah, I'm really happy to hear the name of the Berif as a kind of the Berif family.
Yeah.
So let's move to. We only have 20 minutes left, so we have 2 more questions. So next one is what is the key challenges you encountered? What was the key challenges you encountered when we try to digitalize the services? So if we try to digitalize something, of course there are some challenges and obstacles. So I'm asking again to Tomosaku. So maybe you saw so many startups which was struggling to I saw Verif was so struggled, but you also saw some of the startups which struggle to digitalize. So what was the kind of key challenges? And please describe quickly how did they overcome that situation?
In short, if I needed to say one word, maybe data management is kind of a key point when the startup want to try to digitalize the services. So maybe let's think about the definition of the digitalizations. So from my perspective, the digitalization means like converting the analog data into the digital data, right? But compared with the analog data, digital data that can be stored, collected, and visualized easily, so that we can have enough data to be analyzed and used properly. And that more data enables us to have a better understanding about the user of the services. Of course, the user must be different. In case of the B2B, the corporate clients are the users, and for the B2C and the consumers are the users. Of course, for the governmental services or from the municipality perspective, and the citizens are the users. And I would like to give one example about the data management. So again, I want to talk about kind of a food delivery or kind of e-commerce delivery. So in US, like a DoorDash or Uber Eats, two-sided digital markets, they are gathering, collecting data and from the users about their personal information and the food preference and timing, and also the price to be orders. Then they can have a persona analysis, and they can offer a better recommendation and optimize their machine learning engines. Of course, it's good. From the end user's perspective, because they will be able to offer, a better product for the end users, right? But on the flip side, like, of course, a two-sided digital market, so end users and the other kind of a supplier, like a restaurant or retail shop, but they lose the user data, right? Which actually buy their product or food, as well as the customer direct connection, because marketplace, they gather data and they don't share. So the restaurant and the retail doesn't have any kind of direct data. So they cannot use the data to offer their products or to offer the better products. That's a big problem, right? So on top of this case, I assume that it's really getting difficult to collect the data, especially through the cookie, due to the current restriction trend in Japan, US, and Europe. So going back to your question, so the key point is how to collect the data and how to maintain the ownership of the data. So the data management is quite key challenging if we want to digitalize the service really.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, I thought like, yeah, the restaurant owners cannot see the face of the clients. So yeah, and how do they, have the strategy for the marketing? Yeah, I agree. Data management. Thank you so much. So Oliver, you are Estonian, not you are. You speak Japanese, perfect Japanese though. And how was Estonia of the beginning of the 2000, for example, they started the kind of the journey of the digitalization, but how do they, overcome the kind of the challenges, obstacles?
Well, Estonia, of course, was in a very different situation compared to current situation and compared to Japanese situation at the moment. We just gained independence some years ago, and I would say that digitalization was just one option for us to actually ensure safe and effective government services that are also cost-wise not too heavy for us. So it wasn't there was a lot of discussion, but actually just a rational choice for Estonia. We were not able to build big central databases. For us, the distributed architecture was just something that we did because the costs were lower, but in the end it happened to become a very good architecture in terms of cybersecurity standpoints. But actually, I would actually answer in three different aspects, from the three different aspects. First, I think we actually gave very concrete targets for our digitalization process. In Japan, we still quite often talk about shiawase and kokumin shiawase, like kind of very vague terms. If we open Estonian IT strategy, it's numbers from the first page, like KPIs, what we want to achieve, how to make the services more effective, how to increase internet coverage, what we are actually trying to achieve. So it's very, very important, I think. And therefore, people could understand what the government actually wants to do and how this will benefit them. Second thing is very concrete tools. This is a topic, of course, where the panel is very well informed, more informed than I am, but in Estonia, we use ID card, ID number, the card being, of course, mandatory for everyone. Now we use mobile ID and smart ID. But the point is that everybody is identifiable in the cyberspace or in the internet. So, and the second thing was X-Road, the very safe data transfer platform. So these two tools made our, again, digitalization possible. I think from Estonian standpoint, these tools are very, very important. And again, there are little differences between Japan and Estonia, whereas our card is mandatory, the My Number card is not mandatory. On the other hand, numbers are mandatory for everyone, basically. And our card is open, whereas Japanese card is not open. And on our card, private companies can develop services if they want to. In Japan, this is somewhat restricted. And I think the third very important point is that we try to start from a service that is useful for government to a citizen and also company. Let's say first services were actually tax related. And it's very understandable because government wants citizens to pay their taxes. Citizens want that if they declare their taxes, they get the tax return very quickly. And of course, companies also want the tax system to be very clear and understandable. So we kind of took our first step from something that is useful and understandable for all parties and which kind of has maybe less risk in it. If we would have maybe started from internet voting, people would have had different thoughts. But whereas these services were very important and very useful for people, I think these were steps that needed to be made. And later on, people got more used to different services. And the whole ecosystem actually was accepted slowly by the citizens.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, as kind of the resident of Estonia right now, yeah, I feel the tool is well organized, and yeah, I agree. Like I sometimes check the document of the government issued print and the paper, and yeah, it's always from KGI, and I think that's one of the reasons they are so called like government as a setup, and which now Japanese IT Ministry are trying to be. Okay, thank you. And now I would like to ask Hikaru. Now you are trying to develop the kind of the digital ID services in Japan, not in Estonia. And you should be struggling, as Oliver said, there is a big difference between Japan and Estonia. But you already start work together with a local government, such as Kaga City in Ishikawa Prefecture or Tsukuba City in Ibaraki Prefecture. So please describe what was the kind of the challenges, what was the obstacles, and how do you overcome, or how do you work together with it?
Mm-hmm. Definitely, first of all, it's not the past tense of the challenge. Was challenges? It is challenges even right now. But as Oliver briefly mentioned about the My Number card, I think comparing to Estonia, I think the sequence of regulations and the challenges are a little bit different from it in Estonia. So, for example, if you talk about e-scooter in Estonia, like let's try first. Let's try e-scooter first, and then if there is any accident, maybe small accident, then let's try to regulate. But in Japan, there's always a regulation has come for the first time, and then someone tried to challenge something. So it's not happening vice versa. That is definitely a challenge for startups who has a short runway to maintain their business, because startups can't wait until the regulations has been changed, because it will take probably 1 or 2 years. Since if you try to talk about the laws has to be changed, then in Japan, because of the the government system, it would take 1 to 2 years easily. So in that sense, and also there are huge differences between regulations and laws between local government and the Japanese government. there is like a huge gap sometimes between that. And it's also challenging for startups to understand the difference between the laws and regulations, which is stated by Japan and local government. So in our company, we call it BLT, business, legal, and technology. Those three things has to be understood if you try to start some business. If you only try to think about technology and the business, then you may fail, because every single business is on top of legal the structure. That's definitely a challenge for startups to overcome. And if I say how we can overcome it is like, for example, Fukuoka City, they have some special area that you can have some sandbox. You can maybe forget about or ignore some existing regulations so far. But of course, if you try to practically provide some solutions, then you definitely think about the laws and regulations. So one way is you need to work together with maybe enterprise class company which has capability to tackle legal perspective, and then you provide the service design technology together with them, so that they can fulfill the legal part of BLT. That's something what we are also trying to do. Yeah, that's definitely the challenge in Japan, because as local government, we have 1,700 municipalities in Japan, which means that there are 1,700 local government laws and regulations, which you need to understand and comply. So that is definitely the biggest challenge for us. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you. And yeah, as you mentioned, you already work together with Kaga City, and I understand you already launched the services, the kind of the digital application services. So it's kind of the let's say use case of the digitalization of the Japanese local government. Please describe what was the kind of the main key success, not yet successful, let's say, but what was a good point to you? And yeah.
Yes. So what we are providing right now together with Kaga City is like in Estonia, we provide e-services, so you can apply e-services online. So without going to City Hall, you can apply. You don't need a paper, you don't need a hanko to apply for these services. So instead, you can use digital ID to apply. So without going to the City Hall. But of course, like I said, as we need to comply local government regulations, what we have done is actually you, Alex, went to Kaga City for 1 month and stay there and work together with the local officers, and then try to and have done a workshop, and then try to figure out figuring out what would burden our services from legal perspective is something we have done one by one and day by day together with local officer face to face at the time. I think that's back in this February, so it's almost 10 months ago. So that is definitely a successful point of what we have done. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah, face-to-face communication, right? So I remember Tomosaku, you also mentioned that before COVID, you traveled to Estonia weekly basis, not a monthly basis. But what was the kind of the key, and what did you try by meeting, face-to-face meeting, even why you can have the online meeting?
Well, I mean, first of all, from the venture capital, from the investors' perspective, we don't invest in technology. We don't invest in the product. We invest in the founders, right? Founders' passion, founders' capabilities, and founders' visions. And it's and also kind of venture investments. It takes a lot of kind of long commitment, needs a long commitment from founders' perspective, also from investors' perspective. We don't see okay, so 1 or 2 years, I mean, exit will be happen shortly. It's not that case. We think that we need to cooperate. We need to work together with the founders, more than 5 years, right? It's a kind of marriage cases. So we cannot propose without meeting the people in person, right? So that's why I always kind of try to meet in person. And well, still I have a kind of a difficulty to having the people, I mean, not in person, like by Zoom or by WebEx, whatever. And I'm struggling to enjoy the Zoom Nomikai as well. So I definitely prefer to go to more. I'm in person. Of course, other business discussion or general discussion will be fine. Well, I mean, it will be fine like a remotely, but I think in some cases, it's quite essential to have a meeting in person. I mean, and to have our direct talks about kind of sensitive issues as well.
Thank you so much. So I understand as a team, you work together, sometimes face to face. Okay, that's good. Yeah, sometimes like people misunderstand Estonia. Okay, it's snowing now. Oh my God. So yeah, sometimes people misunderstood like Estonia as a kind of the 100% digitalized society. So people are staying at home and they work digitally, maybe avatars there, like VRs there, but nothing happening in here. As you can see, this is what is Estonia Old Town looks like. And we have the meeting, we had the face-to-face meeting, of course, we have the gathering, we had a party, not so often the Corona situation. But yeah, this is what is happening in Estonia and in the Nordic area, I think. So we have only 4 minutes left. So at the end, as a kind of the last question, please suggest to Fukuoka City and to the Japanese government or Japanese entire Japanese. And what you suggest to Fukuoka City to improve their digital services or even the new digital services with Corona situation? Maybe in 1 minute by each. So maybe I can ask from Oliver. Can I start first?
Sure. I will try to be very brief. I think the best digitalization is a digitalization that you cannot see. Like behind you, there's Tallinn Old Town, but on the other hand, it's very digitalized. So where the user doesn't experience any friction while accessing the digital services. So I think that should be the goal of digital services. But I would just recommend that, first of all, Japan, I think there's a chance for Japan to use this crisis to go forward. Like we are in a very important point right now, I think. And again, I think from Estonian point of view, to use this chance correctly is to offer meaningful services to citizens, something that actually matters to them, something that is useful for the city, for the government, but also for the companies and people. So taxation could be a good start in this sense, but anything that is relatable and has a positive effect on people.
Okay, thank you so much. Useful is a kind of a keyword, I think. And could you, Tomosaku, answer it?
Yeah, if I need to say one word, recommendation for Fukuoka City is just please use our portfolio company's services and products. No, but just kidding. But I strongly feel enthusiasm of entrepreneurship in this region to change, the human behavior and the industry tradition about services and taking this COVID chance. So I would strongly suggest to the Fukuoka City, maybe to ask the citizens or young people living in Fukuoka City directly, if there are any public services can be improved by digitalization. Then I want Fukuoka City to create more young empowerment and momentum to achieve the real digitalization in Japan. Role model.
Thank you so much. So Hikaru at the end.
Yeah, it's not about the like a specific digital services as a suggestion to improve Fukuoka City, but in like any kind of like digitalization, if Fukuoka City will consider for now in the future, I think the important thing is about like transparency of the process and the transparency of the those digital services, like what is happening behind the scene is I think the most important thing. if anyone of who is architecture or who consider about the applying any digital services in Fukuoka City, like definitely is it really transparent by selection, or is it really transparent by design, is something that has to be definitely in the list of why you choose these digital services. And yeah, if I may say one last thing, like that, in order to make sure the transparency, definitely digital ID is one of the solution, to make sure the transparency for all the digital services. Yeah, thank you.
Transparency, yeah, that is really important, and then that what Estonian government and the Estonian services offering. Okay, thank you so much. Time flies. We already spent 15 minutes for the session. And thank you again to three of you and all of the participants today. And thank you so much again from Estonia, from Finland, and even from Tokyo. And hope to see you soon in the digitalized society. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.